first. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Making a Difference in Our Economic Space, where we examine who's making a positive difference, where, and how. I'm your host, Felipe Noguera. Tonight, we look at the role of entrepreneurship in national and regional economic development. We're going to take a glimpse at a seminar on entrepreneurship, which took place at the University of the Southern Caribbean Business School in Maracas St. Joseph Valley recently. But before we hear from some of the conference organizers,
employees rise to the challenge of delivering best-in-class service that knows no limits. That's why First Citizens was voted 2009 Best Bank in Trinidad and Tobago by World Finance, Latin Finance, and the Banker magazines. The sky is no longer the limit.
Welcome back. The Oxford English Dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who sets up a business or businesses taking financial risk in the hope of profit. International management consultant and best-selling author Peter Drucker says the entrepreneur always searches for change, responds to it, and exploits it as an opportunity. Entrepreneurship comes to mind when we hear the names Henry Ford, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, Richard Branson. Closer to home in the Caribbean, Madame Leon, Butch Stewart, Chris Blackwell in Jamaica, Bam Charles and Charmaine Gardner in St. Lucia, Cyril Dupre, Bob York, Elias Hadid, Bolan Amar, Ken Gordon, Helen Bhagwan Singh, I.T. McLeod, and William Monroe are names that are associated with successful entrepreneurship in Trinidad and Tobago. Making a Difference spoke with Dr. E. Tucker, the Dean, and Mr. R. Amela, Chairman of the School of Business at the University of the Southern Caribbean, to help us understand the objectives of the Entrepreneurship Conference. And we're here at the seminar on entrepreneurship for economic development. Dr. Tucker, thanks so much for joining us, and tell us, what was the vision behind hosting and organizing a conference on entrepreneurship for economic development?
What we had in mind, in our school, we do not want students to just graduate and find a job. So these kinds of things help to motivate them to become entrepreneurs.
Excellent. Are you satisfied with what's taken place today?
Very satisfied, because we know we can make a contribution to nation building through entrepreneurship.
The role of the entrepreneur is really as an engine of economic growth and development. Your own thoughts on that statement?
I 100% agree with that, and that's the reason that is the main reason why we organize this seminar, because most of the universities and colleges throughout the world, and especially in Trinidad and Tobago, they only they develop the students, they only focus, students, prepare students to accept jobs in various companies or organizations. But here, the School of Business of the University of Southern Caribbean, and the staff and faculty here, we thrive, we inculcate this kind of entrepreneurial spirit in the minds of the students. By the time they finish their 4 years degree, they will not get into jobs, but they will have to start their own business, small-scale businesses, and they themselves will be self-employed, and also they will be in a position to provide employment for thousands and hundreds and thousands of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
We now have a situation where global growth is being driven by emerging market economies, China, India, Brazil, while the advanced economies are all facing serious difficulties. The IMF was specifically established to support developing countries of Latin America and Africa. But now, in recent times, its clientele is coming largely from Western Europe, from Ireland, Portugal, Greece. Italy is on the way also. It is somewhat ironic for me to read that the IMF is now asking Brazil and Russia and India to contribute to a fund to support Western Europe. In short, entrepreneurship and a new kind of entrepreneur will be the keys to the prospects for achieving economic sustainability.
When we make a conscious decision to do something, that's the hardest piece. Making that decision. Because once you make that decision and you lock onto it, it's not a wish, it's not a whim. It is a heartfelt, to the core of your being, that this is what I want. Now the thing is, when we have a goal, we might not always achieve it. So sometimes you might not always reach where you want to get to, but you can reach a lot further than you would have done if you hadn't had that goal. I'm a firm believer that the road to entrepreneurship is a marathon, not a sprint. Deep within each one of us, there is an inner longing to live a life of greatness and contribution, to really matter, to really make a difference. You cannot and will not acquire wealth working at a job you do not like. Whatever you spend your life's energy doing, you must be willing to give it your all. The more you put into your work, the greater it will reward you. We are trained to think in the reverse. If you pay me better, I'll work harder. According to the law of abundance, it does not work that way. Your job, work, life assignment must be the spark that fuels your fire. It must be a passion that you pursue. You must want it enough to do it for free. You must be willing to stick with it, taking the ups and downs, giving it all that you are for as long as you can. You've got to taste it, smell it, know it whether you're awake or asleep. If you do not have a lustful passion for your work, you really need to find something else to do. Don't chase the money, chase the dream. And I think that's one of the things sometimes people get into business and they think about making quick money. If you want to make quick money, do not start your own business, because it doesn't come quickly. It takes time, it takes dedication, it takes prayers.
You see, the first thing we have to do is make an investment that's going to hurt your pocket. My involvement in the company Major and Minor Productions began as a hobby in 1990. In 1995, it suddenly dawned on me that I had written all these compositions because I love to just do it. And maybe I got a little thrill sometimes to see it on the banner on Panorama, a little corner they might have my name. But I never got $1 in copyright. And so I decided to try and find out everything about copyright. By the following year, I was made the chairman of the copyright organization, and I got my first check for songs that I had written from the 72 right up to the 90s. Today I advise on copyright matters. And once I had learned something about this copyright business, I went at it with a passion that I must know everything about it. I've been able to sit in France with all the 156 countries of the world and represent Trinidad and Tobago. Most of the musical instruments sold in Trinidad are imported. Brass wind musical instruments, percussion instruments, keyboards, string instruments. Locally manufactured, the national instrument of Trinidad and Tobago, the band. There are people who make drums out of goat skin, etc. And there are people who make quattros locally. You may have a skill in that area. You can become an entrepreneur.